Penguin Random House Audio presents The Singularities by John Banville. Read for you by Nicholas Guy Smith. In Memoriam, Janet Elizabeth Dunham Banville, 1944-2021. Singularity, noun, the fact or state of being singular. Peculiarity, individuality, oddity, oneness, anything curious or remarkable, a point in space-time at which matter is compressed to an infinitely great density. The Chambers Dictionary. Part 1. Yes, he has come to the end of his sentence. But does that mean he has nothing more to say? No, indeed, not by a long stretch. Here he is, in the chill brilliance of a breezy April morning, striding out into the world, a free man, more or less. Whence came such spiffy raiment? There must be someone who cares for him, someone who cared. Witness the classy, if outmoded, camel hair overcoat, its belt not buckled, but nonchalantly knotted, the hand-tailored tweed jacket with a double vent at the back, the buffed brogues, the glint of gold at his shirt cuffs. Note in particular the high-crowned hat of dark brown felt, new as the day, cocked at a dashing angle over his left eye. He bears lightly by its handle a Gladstone bag, scuffed and scarred but discreetly good. Oh yes, he is every inch the gent. The Squire was his nickname, one of his nicknames, inside. Nick-name, apt that. His name in the nick. Words are all that remain to hold the dark at bay, for his bright morn is my brumous twilight. Who speaks here? I do, little God, the great ones having absconded. As a matter of fact, he has decided to change his name. Few will be taken in by this ruse, so why should he bother? But his aim, you see, is nothing less than total transformation, and in that endeavour there was no more radical start he could make than to erase the manufacturer's mark, so to speak, and replace it with another of his own devising. The notion of an assumed identity excited him, the poor sap, as if a new name could hide old sins. Nevertheless, he spent what turned out to be an exasperating half-hour in his cell, squatting cross-legged on the narrow bunk with pencil and paper, like a backward schoolboy toiling over his lessons, collar awry and hair on end, trying to fashion a plausible anagram out of what already he thought of as his former name. But there were too many consonants and not enough vowels. And anyway, he wasn't any good at this kind of word game. And so he gave it up, frustrated and annoyed, and sought for a ready-made moniker instead. The choice was bewilderingly wide, from John Smith to Rudolph of Ruritania. In the end, though, he hit on what he believes is just the thing. The simple pleasure of being free, or at large anyway, is tempered by a dab of disappointment. He had always foreseen his release in the jet and nickel glamour of the gangster films of his youth. There would be a big blank wooden gate in which a much smaller postern gate would open inwards, and he would step briskly out in double-breasted flannel and a broad tie, with his few belongings wrapped up in a brown paper parcel under his arm and a tight, cold smile notched in place at one corner of his mouth, and walk across a no-man's land of cobbles and raked shadows to where a flash car awaits, with a toothpick-chewing thug at the wheel, and lolling on the plump back seat, a platinum blonde in a white fur stole and seam stockings, smoking an insolent cigarette. Or something like that, if something can be said to be like something else. The Brahma theory, as we know, puts even self-identity in doubt. But whatever potential there might have been for picturesque drama on the day was dissipated by the fact that the process of being released had been surreptitiously set in train long before the moment came when they shot back the bolts and flung the cell door wide and withdrew to a safe distance, bullwhips and pump-action sawn-offs at the ready. I exaggerate, of course. What I mean is that some years previously a directive had come from on high that he might be let out occasionally for weekends and selected public holidays on the quiet, and on the understanding that no precedents should be considered set thereby. Stressful outings they proved to be. He would have been better off staying safely inside. Then he was transferred from Anvil Hill, where the hammer of the law falls heavy, to the bosky latitudes of Hernia House, a place of relaxed incarceration oxymoronically designated an open prison. He had not been happy there. He had much preferred the good old Anvil, where in a roomy but isolated block he had passed some 20 years of a mandatory life sentence contentedly among his mates, his china plates, lifers to a man, like himself. You understand, the word contentedly is employed here in a relative sense. Durance vile is durance vile, however plentiful the perks. Anyway, we, the collective we, have sprung him loose at last, and here he is, briskly ascending a gravelled path to where a hackney car awaits him, a big, black, low-slung, old-style, petrol-burning model. You won't see many of them on the roads nowadays, with a front as blunt as a dugong snout, and dented chrome hubcaps in which the encircling woods are curvaceously reflected. For we are in the countryside here, among low, sheep-strewn hills which they have the cheek to call mountains, and he savours the birdsong and the breeze, the very emblems of freedom. Hernia House, an isolated Victorian red-brick many-chimneyed pile, had hardly felt like Jug at all, due in part to the fact that until recently it was not a prison proper, but a secluded place of detention for the ordinarily insane. The hackney driver, a gaunt-faced oldster with a smoker's yellowish pallor, watches him narrowly as he approaches. The fellow knows very well who he is, since the car was ordered in his name, his former name, that's to say, which trails even yet the tatters of notoriety. Names. We could call him Barabbas, but in that case, who is it they are crucifying over at the place of the skull? He draws open the rear door, slings in his bag and bends low, and clambers in after it and slumps with a grunt onto the worn and shiny seat. Must shed some of this flab. No salutation called for, on either side. No apology for being late either, of course. Drive, my good man. Fuggy odours of stale cigarette smoke, rank sweat, greasy leather, to which medley he supposes he is adding the old lag's tired greyish reek. His good man regards him in the rear-view mirror with an oyster eye. "Grand day," he rasps. And I? Where am I? Perched at ease, as is my wont, up here among the chimney-pots, enjoying the panoptic view. We have met already, in one of the intervals of my faltering infinitude. Hello, yes, me again.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?